We got to stop the chaos. It's crazy. You got cash flow issues, employee issues, workers' comp issues. You got all kinds of equipment problems. But wait a minute. You can grow and chill in the Growth Hub with Fire, Lead, and Chill.
Yo, what's happening, business nerds? Dan Plata here from Best Damn Bookkeeping. On this little, what are we calling it? Little tidbit video, instructional video, awesome knowledge drop video. We're talking group interviewing. And it's not what you think, because when I say group interviewing, you're like picturing a bunch of people sitting around and you're asking them really awkward questions and everybody's weirded out and it doesn't go well. That's not what I'm talking about. So maybe group interviewing isn't the right thing to call it. I don't know what else to call it. You come up with it. But we use this in our home service businesses to hire awesome people. I use it in my bookkeeping business to hire awesome people. In fact, I have a pipeline of at least 10 account managers waiting to come work for me. Like, I've already interviewed them. I've already said, yeah, you're going to be a great fit here someday. And how cool is that when people are like banging down your door to come and work for you? And this group interview process does that at a super high level. And I'll kind of give you the nuggets of how I do it. But at a super high level, it's very efficient. It lets you get through hundreds of applicants really quickly. It's way better than one-on-one interviewing, because we all know that one-on-one interviewing, you're just hearing what they want to tell you. And maybe I'm just the only one, but I have found over years and years of trying to do one-on-one interviews, I end up hiring people that are good at interviewing, which is not actually a skill set that I need them to be good at for the job that I'm hiring them for. And in turn, I hire a lot of the wrong people. They're bad for the culture, they're bad for the team, and they don't work out because all that happened in that interview is they told me what I wanted to hear. And if they did a good job of that, I hired them, and that doesn't mean they were a good technician or a good account manager or whatever the job was. And so throw out the one-on-one interviews. They suck. You probably suck at it as much as I sucked at it. It's just hard to pick the right people because you're just weeding out. You're really filtering out who's good at interviewing. And again, that's not a job that we have. We're not hiring people because they're good at interviewing. We want to hire people that are good for the job, which means in general, for most of us, we need to find people that have a good attitude, that are reliable and show up every day, and that want to follow us into the stupidest things we can get ourselves into. And so that's what we need to filter for. Who has a good attitude, who has a good work ethic and will show up every day, and who is willing to follow us and wants to be a part of what we got going on. In comes the group interview. So, like I said, this is a way more efficient way to interview, because instead of doing one-on-ones and like waiting, hoping they're going to show up, and you're like rescheduling your day, and we all know the no-show culture, there's a lot of people that don't show up, and then you're wasting your time waiting around for people. Group interviews alleviate that. I just set 2 a week. I do one Tuesday and one Thursday. I don't tell the people that they're coming to a group interview. They find out when they get there. And for bookkeeping, mine are digital, but obviously for our window cleaning, pressure washing business, they're in person. And there's a few things just right off the bat when we do these group interviews that I think are super important. One is you have to have enough people. And so if you're sitting there getting less than 100 applicants and you're like, man, I did my recruiting and I got all these applicants, like 100 is nothing. You need 500. And if you're not willing to pay to get 500 applicants, then I'd say you're not really serious about recruiting. And I'm gonna make another video on how important it is to actually invest in your recruiting. Go check out that video. I'll walk you through some of the math that I've done in our businesses that helps us get out of that mindset of like a couple $100 is a lot of money. Like, this is the most important thing in your company. This is more important than your customers. This is more important than your equipment. A good employee can produce a ton with shitty equipment. A bad employee, you can give them the best equipment in the world, they're still going to be a shitty employee and they're going to do a bad job. So this is the most important thing in your business to get right. Don't skimp on it. So get 500 applicants. That's my goal whenever we recruit for account managers. I need 500 applicants. We're not stopping spending money until we get 500 applicants. And we can do that different ways and be more efficient about it. But like, spend money, go get 500 applicants. Second is you need some sort of system, because for the love of God, you're not going to go through 500 applications. Obviously, if you're watching this, you probably are a customer of Hire Lead Chill. So you've already checked this box. But you need some sort of system to weed those out mathematically to get it down to 100. But you start with 500, you just got to weed out the 400 shitty ones that are in there. So you get down to around 100, then you start getting these group interviews going. Depending on your location and all that, you got to figure out how many you can handle. When I do it digitally, I don't like to invite more than 10. It's just tough for me to like keep a gauge on everybody, and I'll tell you why that's important. In person, you might be able to get away with a little bit more. And I know some people that when they do these group interviews in person, they actually have like a mole in the room to also watch what everybody's doing, because you're really watching for their nonverbals. When I do it digitally, I can see everybody on the screen. But in person, if you start getting 10 to 20 people, now you might need some help kind of watching everybody's nonverbals and seeing who's really interested in coming to work for you. So you'll have to decide what your capacity is to handle that big. But if you can get 5 to 10 people there, that's a really good group interview size. To do that, you probably need to invite twice that many, right? Again, the no-show culture is just what it is. Don't worry about it. Just play the math game. If you want 10 people in the room, invite 20. Half are going to show up, and you'll figure out what that math is for you. The better you write your job ad and the sexier you are, the more likely people are going to show up to your group interview. So you can kind of gauge with that too. And when you do your group interview, and again, I'm going to make another video about this in terms of like the mathematics of it, the financial piece of it. But keep in mind when we're doing this, we're going to flip around how we think interviewing works. We're used to thinking interviewing is we invite people in, we ask them a bunch of questions to try to figure out if they're going to be a good fit, and then we decide. Everything that we're going to do in this group interview process is the exact opposite. We're going to invite people in, and rather than us interrogate them and try to figure out if they're going to be good, we're going to open up and let them figure out if we're going to be good. They're interviewing us. We're making the sales presentation. It's not them that has to come in and sell to us and prove to us that they're going to be good. It's us that needs to prove to them that we're going to be good. And when you flip that around, it does a few things. One is it takes them off their guard. When they come in and they think they're showing up to an interview, they have in their mind how they're going to answer your interview questions. And they're selling you, right? They're coming in to sell you. And if you're like me, one-on-one interviews, like I said earlier, you pick the person that's the best salesperson. That's not the job that you're usually hiring them for. Maybe you are hiring a salesperson, and then maybe one-on-one interview them and see how well they sell you. But way more important, again, is do they have a good attitude? Do they have a good work ethic? And I forgot the third thing that I said earlier, but you can go back and rewind in the video. What was the third thing? I don't know. Edit that out, editor person. Anyway, moving on. So when they come to that group interview, again, we're flipping it around. We're the one doing the sales presentation. And mathematically, again, financially, this is, and I'll get into the financials of this on a different video, but this is the biggest sale you're going to make. Our technicians generally are worth $100,000 plus in revenue. Do you have a client that's worth $100,000 plus in revenue? For most of us, that answer is like a hard no. But we treat interviews like this person's got 3 eyeballs and 12 legs, right? We're like, rush them in, rush them out, and we treat them like shit. We need to wine and dine and do a full-on presentation for this person. This is our biggest customer. This is the thing that's going to move the needle for us the most. So treat it like that. When they show up, snacks, drinks, how are yous? Like, treat it like it's a massive sale. And so when you do this group interview, that is the process. You don't ask any questions. You are open to be questioned. When I do it, I have literally a slideshow of a presentation that I'm going to give them. And there's some really key components to that presentation. You got to make it your own, but I'm going to tell you what I like to do and how I make it my own and why I think it's so impactful. So number one is storytelling throughout. People love to be told stories. And that's how, the third thing, don't edit out the third thing, because I'm going to go, now I remember what the third thing is. The third thing that you're really weeding out for is, are they really like going to follow you? Do they want that job? Do they really want to come work for you? And that's super important. And I'll get to why that's super important, but they need to be picking you, not you picking them. So when we're doing this group interview, we're doing the presentation, and we're doing a bunch of storytelling. And again, storytelling throughout, because stories sell, and you are the salesperson. You are presenting to them. You need them to opt in. It can't be you picking them. They need to choose you. There's ownership and accountability if they choose you. I think that's super, super important. So in your presentation, I like to start with our origin story, storytelling. How did we get here? Where did we come from? who the hell am I? I literally have a slide that says, who the hell is Dan? And I show them a bunch of pictures of me and my wife and my kids out hunting and fishing and dead animals. And I joke with them, and I'm dropping F-bombs and I'm swearing because I just like to be edgy and roll like that. But I need them to be okay with that. Because if they come and work, and I do this every time, if they're going to come and work for me, there's one thing that is for certain, is I can fire them, but they can't fire me. So if they choose to come and work for me, they're stuck with me. So they better be okay with me drinking beer on a podcast. They better be okay with me dropping an F-bomb. They better be okay with me killing animals and filling my freezer. If they don't want to follow Dan and they don't like that about Dan, go get a different effing job. You don't need to work here, right? There's plenty of jobs out there. And so whatever that is for you, whatever that vibe is for you, lay that all out for them. I also tell them right away, and you will get to this point if you do group interviews right. I tell them right away, I don't actually have a job for you guys today. I'm going to disappoint you immediately. This is my classic joke, dad joke. I'm going to disappoint you immediately today, just like I do with my wife every day, right? That kind of like, everyone's like, oh, dang, right? And that may or may not be true for your business. Again, like at some point you will be able to say that in your group interview. But I literally, like I said, I have account managers lined up. I have 10 of them. I'm probably stocked for the next 2 years. It's super important to build that pipeline. One is because you don't want to recruit once you need somebody. You want to recruit in advance. Recruiting and hiring are two different things. ABCs, always be recruiting. Build that pipeline so you know who you're going to call first. And I tell them that probably sucks to hear that today because you came here thinking you were going to interview for a job. And you are. But my goal is to find out who's going to be the best person ever in this job, who's going to love it the most, who's going to love working here. And I'm going to give you every tool you have that I can come up with to help you decide if this is going to be the best place in the world for you. And I only want you to opt in if you can say for certain that this is going to be the best place in the world for you. If it's not, go find a different job. Like, don't work here if it's not the best in the world for you. Go find a job that is the best in the world for you. So I'd tell them I'm going to disappoint them right away. I don't actually have a job for them. My goal here is to figure out who really wants to be here, who's going to be the best person. And when we figure out the timing, then we'll hire you. And the other component to that is I tell them I can guarantee with 100% certainty they'll never have to work with a shitty coworker. That's the upside of, hey, I don't have a job for you today, is you're never going to have a bad coworker because I have people lined up banging down my door to come and work here. And so if somebody starts to suck, they're just gone, right? We don't need to wait around to fire them. They're gone. They suck. And then we got 10 more people to call. Let's go get one of the awesome people that really wants to work here. And so they'll never have a shitty coworker. And that's a really powerful message because most of the time when people leave companies, it's a culture thing. It's because you don't have a bunch of A players on your team. You have C and D players. And so the couple people that you do have that are A players are probably going to leave because they don't want to work with those assholes. So that's a really powerful message to deliver. I give them my origin story, storytelling, story selling. And then I get into like, here's what we're going to talk about today. So I have a slide on core values. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And there's a separate video that I'm going to do on how to generate your core values and how to use them. And this is one of the uses is in this group interview because you need to find people that match your core values. I like to walk them through all the things that suck, right? If they're going to choose your job, they need to know the shittiest parts about it. And you can make it funny for sure, but we all have jobs that have shitty things. And so don't hide those, put those front and center because you need that person to opt into those shitty things so that when those shitty things happen, you can be like, yo, Jim, like, I know this sucks. You chose this. You chose that we don't get to pick where our customers live. You chose that we can't clean their house when they're sick. You chose that this equipment gets used and the nature of it is that it breaks a lot and we got to maintain it, right? That's like, these are the things that suck about our job and you chose that. You wanted that suck. So let's just solve it. So we talk about that. I like to talk about how they get paid. I like to talk about, a day in the life. Here's how the general flow of it goes. And then I like to open it up for questions. And I let them interview me. Now, when they opt in, you don't have to choose everybody, but right, I'm like letting them opt in and I say, hey, at the end of this interview, I'm just going to let you go. I'm not hiring anybody here today. The next step is you have to message me. Like you got to do the work to message me and opt in. And then we'll do another 30 minutes either on a video call or you can come back in or whatever. And then we'll go through your resume and we'll make sure together that this will be the last job you ever have. Like that we're dating, we're getting engaged. We're going to make sure that this is the last business relationship that you're ever going to need to have. And we both have to agree, right? It's a relationship. It's a two-way street. You got to want to be here and I got to want you here. So after I do that origin story, I then get into core values. Again, I'm going to do a separate video on core values, but I think core values are so important. They're super lame, super corporate, super lame, unless we use them the right way. And this is how we need to use them, which is they are the filter for who gets in and who gets sent out, right? They are the decision matrix for who's on our bus. And if you're the business owner, they're yours. The company doesn't have core values because the company is yours. Therefore, the core values are yours. And they have to be yours because, again, the only person that can't get fired is you. And so if people are coming on that bus and they're willing to follow you, they sure as hell better love your core values. And again, stories are really important. I tell stories and go watch the core value video that I'm going to do if you don't like your core values, you don't feel or you don't have any or whatever, go watch that video. I'll teach you how to come up with your core values. I walk through mine and I tell stories because I've revised them over the years to help me hire and fire the right people. And there's stories behind them that are hilarious and that everybody can resonate with. And so I'm telling these stories about our core values and giving examples. And I'm watching, this is where I'm really watching people's nonverbals, because I will be able to tell with damn near 100% certainty who is totally bought in on my business by watching their reaction to my core value stories. If they are nodding their head, if they're, you know all like the positive signs of communication. If they're nodding their head, if they're trying to tell me a story back, if they're saying, oh yeah, right? I'm telling stories about all the people that have sucked that worked for us that we had to fire and why we have these core values. And they're like, man, I worked with a guy like that, or I remember that person, right? And so all of a sudden you can tell who is super bought in on coming to work for you. And I actually tell people, pardon my French here, I say every single time, hey, I'm going to walk you through these core values. And if your reaction to these core values is, oh, that's neat, Dan, then don't come and work here. Do not come and work here if you think these core values are pretty good. Your reaction to these core values absolutely 100% has to be fuck yeah. And I say that because I need them to take it seriously, that it has to be a fuck yeah or do not come and work here. Because you're not going to want to follow me if these things aren't like exactly what you believe. And you shouldn't. You should go find core values that are exactly what you believe. But if you're going to follow me, these have to be yours, right? They're mine and they have to be yours. If they're not yours, let me know how I can find you a different job because this ain't the right one for you. And I think that process and being super intentional about that and finding the people that are truly going to follow you is really, really important. In that group interview and you telling them and you letting them opt in and you telling them these stories is how they really know who you are and how they really get to choose to follow you. And again, there's like tons of ownership and accountability behind that if they choose to follow you. So then I go through a day in the life, how they get paid, the things that suck, the things that are good and the things that suck. I go through who our customers are, and there's things that are good and things that suck about that, right? In our bookkeeping business, our customers are small business owners. That's awesome. We love working with small business owners, but we all know that we as small business owners suck at checking our email. We don't always follow up with people because we're so busy because we got this customer with that thing and then we got this employee with that thing and then our wife is mad at this and we got kids sports. We're all like chickens with our head cut off. And so as a bookkeeper on our team, we got to chase small business owners around, which is a pain in the butt. That's a thing that sucks. So I tell them all that. They're prepared for that. I go through the rest of that group interview, again, weaving in as many stories as I can. Stories sell. Stories are what attract people and get them to want to follow you. Tell as many stories as you can. I go, and there's only like 5 or 6 slides that I just talked about. That takes me like 45 minutes. You can probably tell already that I get carried away. But you're giving them all the information they need to opt in, right? At the end of it, I say, hey, it's your guys' turn to interrogate me. I'm not going to ask you guys any questions, but I can't possibly cover every nook and cranny of our business, but I want to open the hood up as much as possible so that if you say, hey, Dan, I want to follow you and I'm coming, then you know what you are signing up for. And I can be confident. Again, we use Hire Lead Chill in our business, obviously, because you're here watching a video from Hire Lead Chill. But whatever recruiting system you use, I can be confident that I weeded out a whole bunch of people already. So when I get to these 100 that are in the group interview, I already weeded out to make sure they're in general the right type of person. I don't need to really interview them again. Now I'm looking for who wants to follow me. I don't need to hire, and this is true for 95% of the jobs we're going to hire. I need somebody that is a good attitude, first and foremost. I need somebody that's reliable and shows up, and I need somebody that's willing to follow me. Those three things. None of those three things have anything to do with, I need somebody that knows how to clean windows. I need somebody that knows how to clean a house. I need somebody that can do this, right? If you're in the trades and you're plumbing or stuff like that, then you do have another filter. But even when I'm hiring accountants and bookkeepers, like, I can filter all that before they get to that group interview, right? It's already been filtered. Do you have accounting experience? Demonstrate that when I hire account managers, there's 5 questions they need to answer correctly to get through to the group interview. That's super easy to filter out. That group interview is, do you have a good attitude, right? Because can't teach that. And that's one of our core values, is that they got to have a good attitude. Are they reliable? Well, did they show up to the interview on time, right? And do they have, then I start looking at their resume if they get past this point, but do they have a bunch of job hopping history? That's usually a bad sign, unless they have a very good explanation for it. And then, are they going to follow us? I literally have people email me back, because again, I make them have to reach out to me after that group interview. And like, they will email me the most funny things about, like, I will follow you through a brick wall. I will follow you into war. I will follow you anywhere. And that's who I want to hire, because I can teach them to do our job. Our jobs are not that hard. The work itself isn't rocket science. We need people that show up with good attitudes, want to learn, want to work hard, right? And want to follow us, and they'll do what we ask them to do, because we're the one person that ain't getting fired, right? That group interview process works so well. And again, you're watching nonverbals, and you're watching who's really interested, and who's sitting forward, and who's nodding their head, and who's engaged, who's asking questions. That is the person you want to hire. Then they reach out to me. I schedule a 30-minute follow-up to look through their resume. And again, just the conversation is, hey, we're about to get engaged, and this is going to be the last job that you ever have. Let's make sure it's the perfect fit. It has to be the perfect fit for both of us. Otherwise, I'll go, like, there's tons of people to recruit out there, and there's tons of jobs for you to go get. Let's make sure that when we decide this, it's damn near marriage. Like, we're damn near certain this is going to be the perfect fit for both of us. And we won't get it all right all the time, but that's what we're shooting for. And that group interview works so well to have them opt in, eliminate that one-on-one interview nonsense. I'll leave it there. Go check out the core values video. Again, if you don't have them, or don't love the ones you have, or don't know how to use them, there's so many different ways to use core values to make it fun, engaging, exciting, not boring corporate nonsense. Go check out that core value video. And if you're like, Dan, I don't know how I'm gonna go get 500 applicants, like, they're out there, you guys. There's tons of people that want a better job than the one that they have. Go get them. And it's totally worth it. So I'm going to do another video on how to invest in recruiting, and how much you should spend, and that it's okay to spend, and what the ROI on it is compared to even marketing and some of the other things that you think you need to do to grow your business. Go check out those videos. See you on those. Peace out.
The Growth Hub. Growing while at peace. Brought to you by Hire, Lead, and Chill.